Welcome back. Okay, so we're going to talk about the St. Louis Blues, a team that was supposed to be better than what they've been so far, and I would say their status is retooling. Now, I'm not going to put rebuilding because I don't think a rebuild is necessary. They just signed Kyrou, they just signed Thomas, Bennington's still in his prime. There's a good defense core here, I swear. Stop laughing. There's a good defense core here. They just haven't played like it this year, and I have no idea what's going on with the defense. But I will say this: Vince Dunn's having a great year in Seattle. I've been a big proponent of Vince Dunn for a long time, and I think losing him out of St. Louis. Just think about it: if they still had Dunn, and if it was Tarasenko that had gone to Seattle, they'd have more cap space. They wouldn't have had to worry about any of the Tarasenko stuff at all, and I think they'd have a better blue line with Dunn. But at any rate, that being said, their current record is 23, 24, and 3, which is below the playoff line. And every time they lose a game, or every time they get a point rather than two, their playoff odds drop. They're currently at 3.1%. Their power rankings, the highest they've been is second. That's when they had that huge winning streak at the start of the year there. Well, they had the big winning streak, the losing streak, the winning streak. At any rate, they were second, and then they dropped all the way down to 28th during the losing streak. Right now they're 24th. So it's been a rough go for them. They did start the season, the first 10 games 3-7, but then they went 7-3 in the next 10. 14, 15, and 1 through 30 games. 19, 18, and 3 through 40 games, and since then they are 4-6. So this is being recorded before tonight's game between St. Louis and Winnipeg. And for St. Louis, this has been frustrating. You can see it with Craig Berube that he's frustrated. You can see the players are frustrated with how this season's gone. It's just been a disaster. And to me, I think if you overreact to this, that's a problem. Changes need to be made, but this team isn't that far off from being a winning team and being in the playoffs. Jordan Kyrou, I think their MVP is Kyrou. He had a bit of a slow start to the season, but he's a point per game now with 23 goals, 24 assists in 47 games. Thomas, who's injured currently, 12 goals, 31 assists, 43 points. I think Thomas has been right there with Kyrou as the most important players for this team. Buchnevich, when he's been in the lineup, he's been excellent. 15 goals, 23 assists, 38 points for him. Braden Shen, 13 goals, 24 assists, 37 points. A good, solid veteran. I don't think he ends up going anywhere either, though I think he's going to be a Blue for a long time. And Tarasenko, 10 goals, 19 assists, 29 points. I think St. Louis would rather see Tarasenko scoring a few more goals. They might be able to up what they're asking for him at the deadline, but he likely goes at the deadline. That being said, a $7.5 million cap hit's not easy to squeeze into most rosters in the league, so there'd probably have to be money coming in, money being retained, and all that fun stuff, and maybe a third party retaining some cap as well. A team that, just like in Arizona, just says, we'll take some cap and we'll pass them over to that team for you. So their tandem is Binnington and Greiss, and one of the great talking points, of course, with St. Louis this year has been Jordan Binnington. I think Binnington has been good. I will say he has been good. I think at times he gets overrated by fan bases and by media, but when a goaltender has won the Stanley Cup, it's kind of the Cam Ward effect, for lack of a better way of putting it. Cam Ward was a good goaltender. That Stanley Cup win in 2006 always kept him in higher esteem than I thought was necessarily deserved. But again, you've won a Stanley Cup. You've proven that you can win when the games are most important. You deserve some of that. So Binnington is their goaltender now, and likely their goaltender for a long time to come. But does Greiss go somewhere at the deadline? He's on an expiring contract. Greiss has been pretty good recently, so it's possible he gets moved. Tarasenko, I've talked about. Barbashev, apparently there's offers coming in with Barbashev. He could be traded while I'm down in California. That's possible. Achari's been good for stretches this year too, and his cap hit's not egregious, so he could get moved at the deadline. Pitlick, they brought in on a tryout. He got a contract due to injuries to other players. I think he's played well enough to warrant a look from another team at the deadline. O'Reilly is a big name. He has to be healthy, though. He has to come back. He has to be healthy and show that he's ready to go. O'Reilly's had a nightmare season with St. Louis, a nightmare season defensively, and he's known as a really good two-way forward. So that's been eroded a bit by his play this season, but I don't expect, unless he's not healthy, I would expect there to be teams lining up for his services. He is still capable of being very good. I would say a 2 or 3 center at this point, and he provides some leadership and some experience. That Stanley Cup ring means something. Mikkola is an expiring contract. I'd be kind of surprised if St. Louis moved on from him. I like like Nico. I think he's a good player. Grice, as I mentioned before, could end up being on the move. And yet, with all of those players who could be on the move, I don't think it's major surgery that ends up happening with this team. I think we'll see some guys move on, yes, but there's still going to be enough good players there that you don't need to do a full rebuild. There's enough good young players there. I don't think you need to do a full rebuild. And I wouldn't expect that with St. Louis. But that being said, let me know your thoughts. If you're a Blues fan, do they need a rebuild or do they need a retool, which is what I'm saying, which means a year to 2 years later, they're right back in it. Think like what the Rangers did. They called it a retool and it worked. So let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.